folly indeed. So I think that stuff is it's just crazy. It appeals to people that have money, think they're going to have money, and they don't want to be taxed. And often they think that if everything crashes, they'll be able to buy up, assets and people.
What about a VAT?
Pardon me?
What about the VAT?
No, stupid. That's what you have in Europe. You pay 20% value-added tax. It's crazy. You want to have a Tobin tax. The only thing that you can tax at this point, I wouldn't raise taxes on anybody. I would try to lower taxes on wage earners and try to lower taxes on small business. And the way you can do that is to say, who is not paying their fair share? Bankers, hedge funds. The turnover in Wall Street is not taxed. The turnover in Chicago is not taxed. Let's discourage speculation with a 1% securities transfer tax, Tobin tax. This is a wonderful idea for California. I wish people would do something to get this on the scoreboard there in Sacramento. That's an obvious place for it, right? Everybody says, well, everything is taxed to the hilt. Yeah, wait a minute, boys. One thing is not taxed at all. Bankers, hedge funds, and their speculative activity. It's the most obvious thing in the world, right? We pay sales tax. They pay nothing. It's not fair. Anybody can understand that. And then, of course, the fifth point, the international dimension, right? You got to have a World Monetary Conference. One of the things is obviously then set up fixed parities and some form of gold settlement. But the idea is to restart world trade. World trade has fallen 40% between the third quarter of '08 and the first quarter of '09, and it's going to continue to fall when we get the WTO. Right, you go to their website, the World Trade Organization. They soon will have, or maybe already have, the figures for the second quarter now of '09. So a 40% fall in dollar value of world trade. That's a huge economic depression. That's a killer depression. So you got to do something about that. And again, the program, the 5 points that I've just gone through, is a national program. If you're in someplace like California, you want to go with this Tobin tax as a state tax, because that can be done. There's a San Francisco financial district, right? And the tax is paid by the broker. So you're shifting the cost of the depression off working people, the middle class, and small business, and you're putting it where it belongs. The bankers who created the crisis, the hedge fund hyenas, right? The zombie bankers, let them pay for it. The other thing you can do at a state level to ameliorate the conditions and defend civilization, you can stop all foreclosures. You can say 5 years duration of the crisis. Nobody loses their primary residence. Everybody gets a place to stay.
Sure.
Wall Street should eat the losses, right? Wall Street now, they've gorged on the TARP and the bailout and all this stuff. Wall Street can eat those losses. They're chump change from the point of view of the derivatives bubble.
You're not kidding.
And then the usury laws. This is another one. In the Volcker-Carter era, when he got up to the 22% prime rate, state usury laws were swept aside. They should be reasserted. You can say 10% is the highest interest rate on anything. Credit card, payday loan, whatever it is, car, title loan, 10% tops. You go over 10%, you're in the clink. Any state could do those things. Those would already be three things that would make a significant contribution to overcoming the Depression. I hear people blathering about states' rights. Fine, let's not talk about, states' rights in the abstract. What is it you want to do? Let's get to the concept, right, the content of this thing. What you ought to do is things like a state Tobin tax, a state usury law, which is a great tradition in this country, and then stopping foreclosures. So with all of that, you're shifting the costs onto the social class, which is responsible for the Depression. In other words, the speculators, the hedge fund people, the zombie bankers. And short of this, there's no recovery. In other words, the three waves.
No. There's
no recovery unless you do the things that I've said. No. It's a bottomless depression.
Well, even then, it's not a recovery to the way things were.
Pardon me?
It's not a recovery to the way. Not going back. That's the point.
I think the U.S. has been in increasing decline and stagnation now for 40 years or so. Right? And again, the reactionary Republicans have essentially dominated that period. Right? They've won 7 out of 10 elections. Right? And whenever Republicans are not in power, they talk about free markets and this mythology. Then they get in power and they act like Bush, and we should remember that. So What you need to do is to start a worldwide open-ended economic boom, and there's no reason why it should stop. There is no cycle, right? The Austrians are always talking about cycles. There's no cycle. It doesn't have to be, right? You can take measures to avoid it. So there's nothing that's going to lift you out except what you do yourself. And I submit that these reforms that I've mentioned are all tried and true. They've all been done before in one form or another. They work. There's nothing speculative, nothing theoretical about them.
I didn't hear anything speculative at all. Thank you, Webster, again.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the new book, Surviving the Cataclysm. You can find it under his name and guests at rense.com. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night. Okay, that's Webster Tarpley's take, and we always learn from Webster. All right, we'll be back in just a few.